So, good afternoon, my friends. Thank you very much for being here with me. I'm keeping on reading from Break the Cycle, the lesson 1.29 about bonding attachment wounds. Why some people can't feel, need, or love others. From Peter Garland. Okay. As always, the link is down below, so we can read it together. Okay. Or you can listen to this while commuting or doing something else. Okay. So, this article covers perspective on feeling and bonding. What causes this bonding block, this wound? This is the inability to receive love. This is a problem of magnetism. Okay, magnetism is the feminine energy. Okay, so they have a distorted feminine in themselves. Okay, how does this bonding wound relate to giving and receiving love? How does this psychological wound affect typical family relationships? What are typical behavioral symptoms of this wound? And can wounded people learn to genuinely bond, feel, receive love? This is a great question. If you know anyone who seems unable to love, keep them in mind as you read this. This article assumes you are familiar with the intro of this non-profit website and the premises underlying it. Well, I would say that this is the lesson 29, so which means I have done at least 29 videos. I've done much more because I've also done videos of the annexes of the so until now you should have listened several times and have assimilated all the knowledge. What are the wounds, the psychological wounds, etc, etc, etc. Done the homework. Okay. Self-improvement lesson 1. 2 brief research studies on maternal bonding, the wounds and unawareness cycle and its effects, reprinting on childhood attachment bonding. About feeling and bonding. Part of what follows is based on the widely acknowledged work of British psychiatrist John Bradley. This summary of this attachment bonding theory is well worth reading after you finish this. Newborn humans and other animals have the primitive instinctual ability to form strong emotional attachments or bonds to special things. Universal examples are the fierce bonds between parents, especially mothers, and genetic offsprings, and the bond between healthy mates. When young children are deprived of psychological nurturing too much or too long, they survive by automatically evolving a fragmented personality. Parts of their personality want to emotionally attach to care about special people. From abandonment and abuse trauma, other parts develop a primal terror of attachment, too much at all. Depending on many variables, such wounded girls and boys grow into adults who are ambivalent about true bonding and commitment, are too shamed, distrustful, fearful to achieve real bonding with appropriate people. For detailed explanation, see this article after you finish here. Such grown wooden children, GWCs, are burdened with the indescribable anguish of wanting to exchange loving communion and attachment with special people and being unable to do so, living in a society that relentlessly glorifies pleasure and love. I don't think love is really glorified, okay? Unfortunately, in my opinion. Shame-based kids may be able to care for others, but their ruling subselves feel worthless and reject others' love. People who experience soulmate relationships eloquently affirm that they have a deep spiritual dimension to the bond between them. But for that, you have to do a great work on yourself. Okay? Other common facets of these tragic psychological wounds are being unable to A. care about yourself, neglect, and B. empathize with others, and C. an inability to bond meaningfully with nurturing higher power. What causes this bonding block? Shelves of scientific, philosophical, and romantic books focus on this pervasive human mystery. After 36 years of clinical study and 29 years of wound reduction learnings, my guess estimate is this. Early infant, including newborn you, has the innate capacity to attach, bond. He or he is exquisitely responsive before and after birth to sensory interactions with his or her primary caregivers. A newborn's pre-birth experience and perhaps genes may influence her or his prediction to trust themselves and connect to his awesome giant being called mother, mommy, madre, or mama. If a baby's physical, psychological, and spiritual needs for gentle attention, security, touching, stimulation, mirroring, feeding, rest, comforting, and cleaning are filled well enough, the primary caregiver is constantly emotionally present and available versus distracted or absent and unavailable. Generally pleased, the baby is there and wants to nurture him or her and is able to attach, does not have significant psychological wounds, and is able to feel and express emotions and needs and to empathize, and is steadily alert to things that please and upset the baby, then is effective in providing comfort filling needs. Then the baby and caregiver will probably develop a genuine mutual bond. Initially, the baby's side of the bond is dependence. Over the years, if the growing young child steadily experiences being praised, wanted, and important, loved by key caregivers, she will shift her part of the bond from I need you to I love you. If the baby needs are inadequately, erratically, and harshly met, or caregivers' looks, sounds, and actions seem confusing, you are good, you are bad. Double messaging when the baby is instinctively begins to form a fragmented personality in order to survive. Her or his bond becomes ambivalent. I need you, I feel you. Over time, that promotes self-distrust, dislike, and shame. Bad me feelings, confusion, and significant guilt. Typical babies begin to develop protective false selves to reduce these discomforts. If the child first 3 to 6 years feel too confusing, I'm safe, I'm good, I'm unsafe and bad, and are too scary and painful, then her or his psychological wounding and unconscious bonding ambivalence deepens. If he or she experiences too much shame and bad me feelings, guilt, I do bad things, fears, distress, and anxieties, he or she begins protectively numb out, distract, and undetached psychologically from the people associated with their pain. The young child's personality sub-selves who want to trust and bond are overruled by a protective, distrustful sub-selves who say no, it's not safe to kill, because he always gets hurt. These sub-selves from child bonding block. Such children increasingly depend on themselves to get key needs met. This becomes normal, reflexive, and unremarkable. They neither expect or ask for help. Other wooden kids become apathetic and numb. Still others become strategically helpless to force caregivers to attend to them. But life is still not really safe because the care they get doesn't feel genuine, spontaneous, and loving. Genetics and the nurturance levels of the growing child's environment over time determine how her or his sub-selves develop and which sub-selves dominate. Accumulated pain, pleasure, and parental response patterns shape how intense the bonding, ambivalence, and block is weak to strong. How wide is its scope? I trust soft, furry animals, but not red-headed women who frown and groan. How the child adapts to the environment's reactions to the block, bristling furtively, apologetically, etc., and how their family reacts to the grown distrust of attachments and perhaps pretense. A major aspect of this bonding wound seems to be the child's ability to experience some of all emotions. Some children who learn to automatically associate feelings with guilt, shame, fear respond by muting their ability to feel. As teens and adults must compute what they are supposed to feel to be accepted as normal. Normal does not mean healthy, okay? This promotes feeling even more abnormal, weird, and shamed without knowing why. The bottom line seems to be if a young child feels genuinely wanted, safe, noticed, appreciated, stimulated, comforted, and enjoyed enough during the early years, she will probably develop a healthy enough ability to bond with others. If she or he is too deprived too often of genuine loving attention, touching and holding, encouragement, affirmation, comforting, and protection, the child develops a protective group of guardian sub-selves who provide comfort and distraction for current or expected pain. Inner kids and guardian sub-selves form a false self which causes up to 5 other psychological wounds. If a dominant sub-self are too fearful and distrustful and ashamed, the child has trouble genuinely attached with selected selves, themselves, or a higher benign power. Higher power. How does this bonding wound relate to giving and receiving love? Until well into effective wound reduction, many survivors of many childhood abuse, abandonment, and or neglect, grown wounded children or GWCs, unconsciously associate love with disappointment, rejection, and abandonment. For example, pain. From early agonies, alert subselves are sure if I risk loving, caring about somebody, it will hurt. Trauma survivors who have never experienced healthy, sustained, genuinely unconditional love from from another person often can comprehend that love is other than a mix of love, neediness, duty, and pity. To much disabled people, I love you really means I feel sad, lonely, sorry, compassion, lusty, responsible for you. They are semi-conscious, inadequate, giving material things as a way of showing love. If a maid complains, I don't feel loved by you, unrecurring grown wooden children protests incomprehensibly, but I do. Why don't you see that? For example, that's wrong with you. Similarly, shame-based GWCs have little idea of what it feels like to love him, to love myself. Yes, because this is law of attraction and it's a frequency based. Okay? To gain some self and social acceptance, most false selves develop the survival skill of camouflaging this shameful inability to really give and receive love from themselves and others. I've just made a video about a summary video about an interview with Sandra Bonacci, and he explained in Sacred Sex. And there is in his interview, I don't think I've published yet. I did the summary, but I haven't published yet. It's going to be on the website. Okay, when I'm recording this is not yet, but when you guys see it, it's already there. So it is Sacred Sex, and in his interview, he explains that you have 3 types of connections with the auras. There is one that you are just with the aura, and the auras are being with each other and they're enjoying, okay? And then you have the touching, and then you have the sex. And I think what he's meaning here, Peter Gerlach, is that you are with a person, but you don't really feel in the aura that you love them. So I think that it's your higher self telling you that you need something else, that you still need to work on yourself, okay? Because in my opinion and in my life experience is that you need to have a connection that is spiritual, intellectual, emotional, and creatively. Creative means sex. Okay. You need to have a commitment or a completeness or an added value in every chakra. Okay. To gain some self and social acceptance, most false selves develop, and for that you need to become the independent self. Okay, you need to be in secret union with yourself. To gain some self and social acceptance, most false selves develop a survival skill of camouflaging this shameful inability to really give and receive love from themselves and others. I'm gonna sneeze. Okay. I'm sorry. What is pseudo-false bonding? Psychologically wounded adults and kids can't feel, bond, empathize, or exchange love, live in a society which glorifies and idealizes love, closeness, connection, intimacy, and caring. Behavioral evidence of genuine bonding is an inescapable social norm. Seeking to feel normal in their own eyes and in societies, these wounded people often become experts in early life of pretending to feel true attachments to parents, relatives, friends, and lovers. And this is something I can't do. I can't pretend. I'm a terrible actress. Or it is genuine or an authentic, or I feel it and I as a projector. I feel every person's inconsistency and I cannot play. I'm sorry. It gives me an emotional and spiritual discomfort that it's unbelievable. It's like being really sick. They observe how loving adults and kids behave and become skilled at sounding and acting just like them. But they don't feel attached, empathetic, or committed. A common result is they convince themselves that we can bond and love. If another person doesn't feel a bond, the GWC is a protective denial and is sure that another person is the problem, not them. It's a reality distortion. Okay, so they don't perceive reality. Okay, However, eventually their behavior doesn't match their words. Yeah. Relationships. And now I have to say, I had that when I was 3 years old. I told my mother, I don't like you. And my mother told me, but I like you. And I asked myself, but I don't feel it. I was 3. So I already felt it, and that she didn't love me. Okay? And she doesn't, because she doesn't have the fourth chakra open. Okay? I asked myself, how can she live with that? It's her problem. However, eventually their behavior doesn't match their words. In key relationship, which leads to others to feel confused, hurt, guarded, and distrustful despite the GWC's earnest proclamations. But I really do care about you. No, you think you care, but energetically you don't. And that's the most important. Paradoxically, that's their truth. They don't know what genuinely caring feels like. Yeah, they don't know. Um, yeah, there is a very good. You can also go back to the allegory of the cave from Plato. Okay, so you don't know that you don't know. And you can also go back to if the in case of my mother, she's narcissistic, right? A narcissism cannot empathize. They don't have the fourth chakra open. So there is a video from Sam Wagner that he explains that the Dunning-Kruger effect together with the narcissistic bias. So they feel that they are the greatest, the smartest ass, the most intelligent person in the whole universe. But, however, they are too dumb and stupid to know that they are dumb and stupid. Okay. So they don't know. There is another point, is that you have no idea how much you don't know. Okay. How does difficulty, bonding, and feeling affect family relationships? In ways like this: one or both courting partners commit to each other for the wrong reasons, like duty, rescuing, loneliness, sex, social normalcy, or revenge, rather than for real, committed, and love. And the question is that most likely Peter Gerlach does not answer is, what is love? Okay. And for my research, love is compassion. Love is the ability to forgive. Love is the ability to laugh and have fun with each other. Okay. After courtship, excitement and illusions recede, and one of both mates feels increasingly empty in their partnership. This bonding would promote emotional numbness and hinders the block and the normal exchange of emotional, physical, spiritual intimacy. Over time, this usually promotes secondary relationship problems like hurt, frustrations, distrust, resentment, disrespect, avoidances, distancing, and affairs. People with this hole in the soul and other psychological wounds often are controlled by an addicted subself who thrives and mutes or distracts inner kids, comforts or numbness and emptiness. Addictions to substances, activities, relationships, and/or emotional states inevitably occur. Personal health and marriages promote low nurturing environments with dependent kids and cause more inner pain. Adults unable to feel, empathize, and bond, and some professionals they hire may misdiagnose their persistent emptiness, emotional, spiritual disconnection as depression. This can raise personal and family anxiety and usually doesn't respond to antidepressants and non-therapy. It also lowers trust in the outcome of hiring professionals to help. People with serious bonding blocks are prone to having loveless, physical-only sex, leaving one or both partners increasingly dissatisfied and unfulfilled. Partners who feel empty, as in childhood, are vulnerable to the excitement of temporary relief of A. Fighting or rebelling, B. Taking major risks, C. Sexual affairs, including possible incest. And this bonding block around wound can also affect family relationships like this. Kids raised by adults who can't empathize and genuinely attached often to feel unloved. They conclude something is wrong with me. I am unlovable and bad. They develop a shame-based false self which deeply distrusts that anyone offering love really means it. This promotes socially isolated and approach avoid or hollow, emotional, spiritually empty, and independent relationship, and it also contributes to codependence. A parent or grandparent with this bonding root may not be able to nurture kids effectively. Their ruling subcells may provide care only from duty, guilt, or anxiety, but not from their heart. This risks creating the low nurturing, dysfunctional family environment that wounded adult survived as a child, especially if they divorced and or remarried another grown wounded child. Because people with this disability from weak or no genuine attachments, they have little to grieve. That may confuse or alarm caring, unaware others to judge wounded person as cold, indifferent, self-absorbed, detached, intellectual, phony, plastic, materialistic, wooden, frozen, egotistical, narcissistic, or uncaring. These labels strengthen subselves belief in their host person is an alien, bad and defective as an individual, a female or male or caregiver. Attempts to heal a low bond or no bond relationship through marriage counseling usually fails unless the therapist knows how to assess the treat psychological wounds, for example, with some version of inner family therapy, and each wounded partner accepts personality subselves and wounds and admits that true self is discernible, and each commits to intentional freeing it from false control. Lesson 1. My professional experience is that over 80% of typical troubled adults are significantly wounded and are unaware of this. What it means that many of them have some level of this bonding block. Typical symptoms of an inability to bond. The inability to feel, empathize, bond, love probably results from 5 other psychological wounds. This inability has common behavioral signs like this. Number 1. Often feeling alone with disconnected from other people. 2. Periodically feeling there is something missing in my life but I don't know what. 3. Inability to instill small spiritual voice in the intuition. Inability to relate to a still small spiritual voice within intuition. 4. Being harshly cynical, scornful, and critical of religion. A scratch of the weak, clergy, church, worship, or do-gooders, missionaries, etc. 5. Periodically feeling bad, empty, and depressed for no reason. 6. Often feeling nothing and or being able to feel normal and emotional pleasures. Anhedonia. Often feeling like being on the outside looking at lives of others. Well, that's for Facebook. Leave Facebook. 8. Feeling there is nothing basically different about me. I'm not like other people. 9. Having chronic difficulty empathizing with other people and denying, joking about it, or rationalizing them. A related symptom is being unable to do empathetic listening. That's a very important skill to have. 10. Being religious but not spiritual and denying the justifying that. Yeah, you just go there. You take your body there but you don't feel it. More common behavioral symptoms of the inability to empathize, love, and bond. 11. Having no genuine two-way relationship with a higher personal power, God. You have to understand that God means love, because in German it's Gott with 2 T's, and Gott means gate, and this is the gate of the heart, the fourth chakra, where the electricity and magnetism comes together. And when that happens, it means that you have more light in your body, more photons of light, and actually that means the frequency of love. Okay, and it's amazing that from all of this, nobody talks about quantum physics. Nobody talks about electricity and magnetism. Okay, and if we don't go to the core bottom of what it is, we will never understand and we will never be healed. Okay. Being puzzled by and unable to empathize with others who talk about feeling God's presence or having a personal relationship with God. This is only means to have more light and more sunny within you. Often being what you mean just. It is a long work to go there, okay? Not really understanding or empathizing with any of these symptoms. 15. Being described as cold, phony, plastic, over-intellectual, distant, aloof, insincere, glib, uncaring, unavailable, selfish, egotistic, self-centered, narcissistic, unapproachable, and impersonal. Okay? 16. Confusing love with pity for a needy partner. So I love you means I feel sorry for you. This promotes marrying to rescue and later heartache. 17. Emotionally numbing out or withdrawing when real unconditional love and intimacy is offered, and denying, rationalizing, and or minimizing this. 18. Being unable to describe clearly what adult partner love feels like or means. Okay. For me, it means being able to create. And you can only create when the oil that is created on the pituitary gland goes down your spine and comes up from every chakra. If you have done the groundwork that Peter Garlack teaches on the breakthrough cycle, and you understand yourself, you do the numerology, you do the astrology, and you follow the rules of human design, and you shift the 7 deadly sins from the negative to the positive, and the oil goes up your chakras, okay? Then you can create, because the oil reaches the pineal gland. Otherwise, you are all sterile. If you cannot be able to create a better reality by aligning your thoughts, emotions, feelings, and actions, then we are all sterile, okay? And that's where the point of the spiritual war is to make us sterile, okay? 19. Becoming actions evasive, defending, mute, reactive, numb if intimate conversation of behavior turns into caring, intimacy, or love. 20. Confusing love with lust, intercourse. So I love you means I desire you sexually. 21. Complaining that a partner never demonstrates their love enough or right. This can be true, or an inability to receive, feel, trust, and respond to love. 22. Righteously expecting something in return for providing love, not really understanding unconditional love. 23. Confusing love with dependence. So I love you means I mainly need you and expect to fill my needs. More commonly behavioral symptoms of an inability to empathize and bond. 24. I insisting I love you, but the receiver doesn't feel loved, but the way have a bonding block too. 25. Showing love by providing physical things and or money and feeling frustrated if told it's not enough. 26. Confusing love with duty. So I love you means I'm supposed to feel love for you, but I can only guess what it is. 27. Chronic self-neglect. Being unable to genuinely feel and demonstrate consistent unconditional love for oneself. For example, putting healthy food, rest, exercise, and medical care at the lowest priority and trivializing, justifying, or joking about it. I can't help it. This is also means of excessive shame. 28. Or saying that, oh, I'm good, I'm not that bad. Something like that. 28. Confusing love with power. If you really love me, you wouldn't do that. 29. Habitual discomfort with avoidance and spontaneously expressing love physically. For example, avoiding appropriate caring, hugging, stroking, and kissing. Alternative, pretending to want to do these things, faking it, and denying it. 30. Having acquaintances but few or no real friends. Paying professional counselors to listen because there is no one else I trust. 31. Often experience family gatherings and social events as boring. Course to be enjoyed and avoided versus enjoyed. Well, yeah. 22. A history of approach avoid relationships, marital separations, affairs, and on emotional legal divorces, or never really committing to a mate. 33. Appearing to feel more attachment to animals or plants than people, or have no interest in pets or plants at all. 34. Having one or several addictions and focusing on denying that and or reducing the secondary problems they cause rather than assessing for psychological wounds, addictions, compulsive self-medication for inner pain. Implies several 6 psychological wounds, not just bonding block. In general, the more bonding block symptoms like this that you or another person has, the higher the odds you or she is dominated by a protective false self. The checklist above is one of the several you can use to assess someone's inherent psychological wounds. Use them all before drawing any conclusions. Yes. Can this bonding wound be cured? My clinical experience since 1986 is that psychological wounds can be reduced versus cured over time when the wounded person, the GWC, accepts the reality of personality subselves, fully acknowledges that he or she has inherited significant psychological wounds, hits true bottom and breaks denial, genuinely wants to heal and makes that stable high life priority and finds and uses competent clinical and pastoral help over time. As our culture awakens to the reality and meaning of the toxic wounds plus unawareness cycle, effective wound reduction helps it slowly becoming easier to find. I believe this inability to bond expensive love results from having all five other psychological wounds. And if this is true, patient work in reducing each of them and harmonizing the inner family personality under the true self leadership will also reduce this tragic wound. My clinical experience is that skilled inner family therapy, work, psychodrama, and/or voice dialogue therapy can help self-motivated GWCs to do this. Lesson 1, Part 3 includes detailed part work strategy for reducing many common psychological problems, including each of the 6 GWC's wounds. For more background and resources, see the Association for Treatment and Training of in the Attachment of Children, ATTACH, and this CDC study. The clinical name for this widespread psychological wound is reactive attachment disorder, RAD. It's usually associated with young versus adult trauma survivors. Options: search the web with that term for perspective and resources. Don't expect any knowledge of false selves and psychological wounds yet. For more general perspective, study this overview of the silent wounds and unawareness cycle that may be harming for your family and descendants. An overview of psychological wound reduction and the childhood roots of empathy. Recap. This lesson 1 article focuses on the last 6 psychological wounds, the inability to feel, empathize, bond, and love. The article includes perspective of feeling and bonding. What causes this bonding wound? What does this bonding wound relate to giving and receiving love? What does this psychological wound affect typical family relationships? What are psychological symptoms of this wound? And can wounded people learn to genuinely bond, feel, receive love? The ability to bond may be improved by admitting and working intentionally to reduce the 5 other psychological wounds that cause it. Lesson 1 in this non-profit website offers an effective way to do that. People who have hit true bottom versus pseudo bottom. Pause, breathe, and reflect. Why did you read this article? What are your sub-selves thinking and feeling right now? Did you get what you needed? Here, if not, what do you need? Who's answering these questions? Your wise true self or somebody else? So, thank you very much for listening to me. Comment, like, subscribe, hit the bell button. And for donations and requests, there is the email down below. Thank you very much. Have a nice day. Bye.